Are you ready?
Hello, and welcome to the Whole House Podcast, where you can find home, health, and family all in one place. Our team is comprised of moms from different upbringings and backgrounds, and we each have different passions and giftings and strengths. We each represent a different room, and we all make up the whole house. So grab a cup of coffee and join our overly caffeinated ladies here for the Whole House Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Whole House Podcast. Today is Kathleen
and Jessica.
And the topic today is keeping healthy through the holidays. And that is really a touchy subject for some people because we like to sometimes take the holidays as a free-for-all.
We do.
And it's not. And then after a couple days after Christmas, when all the cookies are gone and all the whatever is gone, then we have like a meltdown or a crash. More likely a crash.
More likely a crash, absolutely. I was thinking about that this morning, and I was thinking if you go all year presenting yourself a certain way in the order that you do things and the things that you eat and the way that you take care of yourself and the way that you take care of your well-being, why would we throw that straight out the window just because it's a holiday marked on our calendars? To me, that doesn't make any sense. We can talk about that a little bit more as to why. Kathleen and I are both very open about having autoimmune disorders. And when you have an autoimmune disorder, holidays come and go and your autoimmune disorder sticks around.
Yeah,
you can't turn it off.
Right.
As many times as I've wished for my autoimmune disorder to go away, it does not. So I wrote down 5 tips for staying healthy through the holidays. With a little different spin. I mean, we could sit here and say, keep your sugar out, continue to exercise. Right. You know what I mean? All that stuff that you may find on great blog posts on the internet. Those are amazing. Those are great things to do. I want to take a little spin on it to not only talk about how to take care of your physical well-being, but for somebody, especially women, it's so important to take care of our mental well-being, emotional well-being. That plays a huge factor in our overall health.
I agree, because, if we go into, there are a lot more suicides during the holidays.
Yes.
And the holidays offer us a lot more triggers that maybe we don't want triggered, either from some past trauma or something in our past family life growing up. And the trauma can just trigger us to do things that we don't normally do. So it's really super important to be mentally and physically and spiritually alert during the holidays and be watching for those and decide, be proactive, have a plan of how you will react to those.
100%, and that's a great preset for number 1, which number 1 on my list is remember the reason for the season. We create a ton of unnecessary stressors on ourselves. Not only do we may have triggers throughout the holiday season, but we create a lot of that stress upon ourselves.
Yes.
Oftentimes we lose sight of what the holidays represent. I mean, we are Christian in my household. We are celebrating the birth of Christ. So a lot of times it's easy to look past that. When you start to get those Toys R Us books in the mail, or if you start to get 1,000 party invitations or whatever, we allow ourselves to become overwhelmed and stressed and maxed out.
Right.
And talking about, looking away from the reason for the season, how much stress does the money that you spend on the holiday season cause?
Wow.
You?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like we had said this at the gathering, every good thing is not good for you.
Right.
If you get an invitation to something, whether it's Christmas caroling or Christmas party or whatever, or someone wants you to be part of a gift exchange, that's a biggie. And then you're tabulating in your head, I'm going to spend $25 on this person in this gift exchange, and then the next person. The thing is, you decide what is essential for you. And if it's going to put you over the tipping point, then no, it's not a good thing.
Right, and that can swing both ways. I just recently saw a ton of moms on my Facebook feed sharing this article, and it's a great article, but it was an article about it was telling you how you should spend for the holidays. And I thought, well, wait a second, nobody should tell me how I should spend, it was an article about how less is more. But I thought, now they're making me feel bad if I spend more. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Don't let anybody dictate to you, besides God, how you spend throughout the holidays. Spend some time now. It's November. I haven't started Christmas shopping. I know that tons of people do in July. I have not, but I think this year I'm really going to spend some time with God and ask him how he wants me to disperse of gifts. Instead of having an article tell me that I only need to buy my children 3 gifts because that is what the wise men did, or I need to buy, let the TV tell me that I need to buy everything for my kids. But I have wrote down, we're going to feel stressed out. It's important that we're self-aware enough to reshift that focus, spend some time with God, and just when is needed, sit down, find yourself, and figure out and remember what the reason for the season is, and make that important in your household.
Exactly. And if I'm not telling you have to do this, because Jessica doesn't want people to tell her what she has to do, but you might want to consider doing some sort of Advent devotional, because here's the thing: if you have in your heart what the season is about, that doesn't mean your children just innately know, because and we've all said these things, well, this is about Jesus, it's Jesus's birthday, it's not about your presents, you know what I mean?
Right.
But they don't know that.
They don't.
How are they supposed to know that? We're the ones who created the world, the system that they live in our homes. We're the one who puts up the Christmas tree and buys the presents, and some people tell their kids there's a Santa Claus, some people don't, you decide.
Right.
But that's what your kids are being raised in. So
absolutely. So number 1, remember the reason for the season. Don't create unnecessary stress for yourself. If you do not have the money to spend this Christmas, don't spend it.
That's right.
All right, number 2, do more than just break bread. So when I was thinking about this, Kathleen and I had talked about it, and I'll let her explain her point that she wanted to make, but I'll read this real quick of what I wrote down. In many cultures, gatherings revolve around food. We all need to eat, sure, but holidays should be more about memories, time together, traditions, and family bonding, and not about eating, sleeping, eating, repeat. Like, how many times did you go to grandma's for Thanksgiving or wherever, and everybody ate? It was super fast. You slept, everybody woke up, you ate again.
Exactly.
And then you went back to sleep, or you shopped or whatever. To me, we have to focus more about what the holiday is, the time together, instead of the food.
Right, and my point was, Jessica and I are both celiacs, and I was telling her before we started recording, said God has kind of pushed me into that area of finding other things to focus on at gatherings, because normally I can't eat the food.
Right.
And I could either, and Jessica too, like both of us, so we could either say, oh my gosh, I can't eat the food. And I was just thinking about this the other day at my granddaughter's birthday party, because I had already had this topic in mind, and I was sitting there drinking a cup of coffee and just talking to people and watching the kids play, and I was just thinking how my focus at these events have changed. My focus is on, just having that conversation, just watching the kids play, instead of thinking, oh, I can't wait to have another piece of cake because I couldn't have the cake anyway. You know what I mean?
And I do. I hate that. I hate to start thinking, like, everybody was always like, what are we having? What are we having? And I get overwhelmed by the thought of, why is everybody focused on what we're eating? We eat every day.
Right.
Every day we eat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ask me every day what we're having? No, you just assume there's going to be something there, and we revolve our day around other activities. So why are we not doing that for the holiday season?
Exactly. And when I struggled with anorexia in college, what's really, really weird is all I thought about was food.
Oh.
That's it. That's all I thought about.
That's weird, because same with me. I had a bout with anorexia too, which I think is common when you have an issue with food.
Yes.
It's easier to look at it as the enemy and just keep it from yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I was. So that's where my anorexia stemmed from. But I had a Pinterest board where I virtually would pin, like I would pin stuff and then I would virtually eat it.
Wow.
No sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. But it fulfilled that portion that I needed it to fulfill by just looking at the picture.
Right.
That's crazy. But I know one thing that my family likes to do that we've really done the last couple of years is our church does a live nativity.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a huge production, and we always try to be a part of that. Every single one of us, whether we play a small role in the live nativity, my husband and my son like to park cars. It just gives them something to do. It gives them time together. So find another way that you guys can build a holiday tradition, something that does not revolve around the dinner table. Sure,
Right.
Jesus gathered around the dinner table, but he also went out into the community and served and did other
Right.
things.
It doesn't say he stayed at the dinner table and ate a whole loaf of cranberry bread slathered in butter.
Then took a nap and then ate whatever leftovers were left.
Right. Well, and our family, our church, for 3 years in a row, they put on a major production of Scrooge.
Oh, wow.
And so my kids and I were part of that, and one of them helped with the mics, and
Yeah.
the other one was a photographer, and I was kind of behind the scenes backstage, but we started those practices in August. So those kept us involved and busy and serving, and it was just amazing.
And I guarantee you, if you asked your kids what they did the Christmas of 2011, they'd remember that and not what you had on your plate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So do more than just break bread. Focus more of your be intentional about more than just your dinner table. I think is very, very important.
It's a mindset. You have to change your mindset.
It is. Number 3, make time to keep routine. This is big for me. We speak a lot here about the whole house, Kathleen does, of having to pivot. Life will throw different things in your direction all the time. Holidays are no different.
Right.
Holidays are no different. I said this in a class this morning that we were attending. It makes, or go through this, and it's actually number 5, but to me it makes no sense to go outside of my routine or to throw my routine out the window, because for one, I spend time with God on a daily basis to fill my spiritual cup.
Yeah.
I work out for the endorphins, not for the abs. Thank goodness, because I would, I would stop a long time ago. I meditate to set the tone for my day.
Right.
So why, just because it's a holiday, would I not do any of that if all of that contributes to my health?
Right, and you can integrate it. One of the ways that my sisters-in-laws and my sisters and I have integrated that is on Thanksgiving, when everyone's at my house and everyone's finished with the meal and the first meal.
Yeah.
Then we'll say, hey, let's go take a walk around the neighborhood.
Right.
You can do that. You can say, and like my brother, my older brother who lives in Tennessee, he brings his bike.
Yeah.
And he doesn't stop riding for anything. So why should we stop that part of our routine just because it's a holiday? Because then what happens? I know if you have an autoimmune disorder like we do, then you're back to ground zero.
Exactly. And how, like I said about the endorphins, exercise is my stress relief.
Mine too.
How stressful are the holidays?
Yes.
If I don't give myself that time to exercise, especially through a time where my stress is peaked, I'm going to bottom out. I'm going to lose it.
Me too.
I'm going to be unpleasant. And I'm not going to create the type of memories that my children are going to remember, that I want them to remember. They're going to be like, Mom was always rude around Christmas, or you know what I mean?
Right, or you're just so exhausted that you can't function, which is, sounds counterintuitive, but if you don't exercise when you've regularly been exercising, then you're just going to go into an exhausted fog.
Right, and studies prove that a lot of times if you have issues, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia is another one where, Western doctors tell you, Eastern doctors, not to exercise. They're being counterproductive by telling you that.
That's not the truth. That's not true at all.
No, so you try to keep your routine as much as possible. And I've been in this fitness game for a long time, so I've heard more times than I like to admit, people say that they're worried about what their family will think of them if they say, I'm going to exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Because we come from, especially our mothers, our grandmothers, never took time for self-care in a way that they should have.
Yes.
So they do look down upon them, and I'm here to tell you, don't worry about what they say. If it's good for your health, do it.
I totally agree, because here's the thing. Your health is yours.
Yes.
So nobody else is going to exercise for you or fix it for you. And if 10 years down the road, you're just a basket case.
Right.
Because you didn't exercise and you listen to those, because you can get into a slump. Let's say you miss it for 2 weeks because everybody's in for the holidays. Right. And then you're like, the third week, you're like, I can't get back to it.
Right.
And then before you know it, it's been a month and 2 months and a year and then 10 years.
Right. And it's easy. You think that won't happen, but it's easy to happen.
Yes.
It's really easy to happen. And that will kind of roll us into number 5 too. But we'll go ahead with number 4. But yeah, number 3, make time to keep your routine. And I don't want to just speak about exercise. How many meditate? I meditate. It's important for me to sit in silence with my thoughts, meditate, try to hear the voice of God on a daily basis. If I do not take time to do that, I feel scatterbrained. I don't feel like I have a direction, purpose.
Right.
So why would I forgo that for any reason? For any reason. And listen, nobody likes to say, set your alarm clock for 30 minutes earlier if you have to. But if that's what you need to do to keep your sanity, I'm going to do it.
Right. Then it's essential.
It's
one of those essential things that you can't skip. And it's interesting that Jessica said that, because I've been rereading the book Essentialism. And one of the things that a lot of top companies do is allow their employees that quiet time to just think.
Yes.
Now, of course, it's for the company,
right?
But we need to have that time to think. And my sister and I were having this phone conversation this morning about how kids don't get that quiet space to be creative and to think through their issues and their problems. And we need that. We all need that time, just to, no noise, no cell phone, no TV on. You can have your Bible in front of you. You can have a journal. I'm a big journaler, and I will just start writing things down, and they're coming out of my hand, and I'm looking down like, oh, I didn't even know.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't even know I thought that. Or
well, I think it helps personally with me with self-regulation.
Yeah, me too.
If I have that time, and I think that, your sister made a good point, that conversation, our world doesn't have enough of that, so there's a lot of people that don't know how to self-regulate.
Yep.
Because they don't know how to sit in silence and just figure it out.
Yep. True.
So that is important. And if I don't stay on my devotion, other things creep in.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you look at all of these, okay, like if you're stressed out, if you're overeating, if you're not giving yourself your routine, how easy is it for the enemy to just slip right into there?
Right, because you've given him a foothold.
A foothold. He's got his foot right in that door.
Right.
You know what I mean? You didn't open it for him intentionally, but he's got his foot in there. And it could be a slippery slope. Like you said, depression. It's the worst time of year.
Yes,
for depression. All right, number 4, don't run yourself ragged. Learn to be still. So we kind of touched on this with number 1, with, remembering the reason for the season. But I have wrote down this. How many times do we overbook ourselves to the point of exhaustion? We do things that we don't want to do just because we feel obligated to do them, which keeps our body in a state of constant stress. A body in a constant state of stress equals a state of constant inflammation and high cortisol levels, which is not good for anybody.
Exactly.
And you may not even know that that's happening to you. You just may not feel good.
Right.
You don't know. Kathleen and I are a little bit more tuned into that because of our autoimmune disorder.
Right.
But a lot of times it's the inflammation, it's the high cortisol levels that your body just is not accustomed to living under. So it's panicked.
Yes, and so you begin to think that that's normal.
Yes.
And that's the way that you feel. And how many people walk around saying, I just feel awful all the time.
Right. And our go the other day, I woke up and I was having what felt like an anxiety attack. I hadn't had one in a long, long time. And back then I would have went to my doctor and I'd have been like, I'm having an anxiety attack. Like my heart is racing. My mind's all over the place. I'm crying. I feel like I'm going to lose it. And they would have put me on an antidepressant, which some people need. But because I know my body had to sit there and I knew that I was having some sort of body response instead of a mind response.
Right.
So I had to sit down, I had to meditate, I had to figure out my breathing, I had to figure out what was going on, what did I do yesterday that had triggered this body response. It wasn't a mind response. It was my body telling me, Jessica, slow down, stop it. So
Right, and that's one of the things my doctor has said, and this is for not only just people with an autoimmune disorder, but this is for anyone. If you have stress, if you have anything stressful in your body, it's going to come out one way or the other. And that's what he said. It's either going to come out in physical symptoms, or you're going to get sick, your lymph nodes are going to fill up with toxins. It's going to come out some way.
Somehow, some way.
Some way it's going to get out, because our body has to take care of itself.
Right, and that's what, the more I am trying to heal myself from the issues that my body has, I am learning I can do everything by the book, but if I do not know how to manage my stress or keep my stress at a level that it needs to be, I might as well not do any of that other stuff.
Yeah, me too. And that's what my doctor's told me that. He said, stress is what's setting you off. Stress, every time I'm having an issue, it's stress. And he'll ask me all these questions. What are you doing? How are you spending your day? How much are you exercising? Right. And it's stress.
So it gets to the point where now I'm not afraid to tell people no. No, I can't come to that party. No, I can't do this.
Right.
No, I can't head that. No, I can't be in charge of that. No, I can't gather all of this stuff. You know what I mean? I need to be still and figure out what is most important, where God directs me to be, and not just do it for the fear of missing out, not just do it because I feel obligated, not just do it because I'm a type A personality and think that nobody else can do it right.
Ouch.
I know, right? It's right in the gut. But to keep my stress level, my inflammation level down, because life's going to throw things that I can't control at me.
Yeah.
So I have got to take control of what I actually can control and get that figured out to keep myself in a state that I am not run ragged.
Right. And the thing is, there's only one you.
Right.
And don't forget that there's only one you, because there's only one you who can be who you are, the way that God created you, with the gifts and talents that He has given you. And if something happens to you because you just run yourself into the ground,
right,
then those things that you have to offer are not there.
No, because I can honestly say the last time I let myself bottom out fully, and I know Kathleen has a story of her own, but I ended up with shingles at the age of 35, 34.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, that really put me down for close to a month.
Yeah.
That was one of the most horrible things I have ever experienced.
Crashing is not fun.
And it's not. And I just had a stressful week last week and I could feel it. And that's what I said. I had to remove myself from the situation or it was going to happen again.
Right. Yep. And you told me that. You said you felt like you were going to bottom out.
Yep.
And that's whenever you have those warning signs, here's a warning for you. Learn from us.
Yes.
Because we've bottomed out too many times. I've had a couple major crashes. When your body starts telling you that, stop.
Right.
Just stop. Reevaluate. Do only what is essential to you at that moment.
Right. And listen, I can remember my mom losing it whenever it was Christmas and she was having to clean. I remember one time she told us that we weren't having Christmas because the house was dirty and nobody would help her. And that was just unnecessary now that I look back on it.
Right.
Because I don't even remember how that Christmas went, but I remember how stressed out she was.
Right.
And that's horrible. She should have never been or felt like she should have been at that breaking point just because our floors were dirty. Exactly.
We put way too much pressure on ourselves for those things, because the thing is, I don't know, with my family, they're all going to trump in and get the floors dirty. But yeah, I focus on those things too much too. Sometimes, not as much anymore as I used to.
Yeah, so learn not run yourself ragged. Learn what is most important to you and don't be afraid to say no. So I know I have one more point, and that is to keep your immune system healthy by eating whole foods. And it all goes back to the resting, but let's talk whole foods for a second. This is the point that I brought up in class. If you eat a certain way all year long, why would the holiday season change that? Why would you allow that holiday season to change that?
Right.
Why throw your body into shock by eating foods you don't typically eat? Why stray away from whole foods if your body works best on whole foods? That does not make sense to me. It goes back to looking at number 2, do more than just breaking bread.
Exactly.
And it may be easier for me to sit here and talk about it because I am a celiac. I have to really, really, really watch what I eat. But you should live your best life and fuel your body to the best of your ability to function at its best 12 months out of the year.
Exactly.
And I wrote this quote: don't undo all of your hard work or all of your health for a 3-day holiday weekend. So if I would go and eat cheesecake because cheesecake is delicious, a gluten crust for holiday or for Thanksgiving because it sounds good, that's going to set me back. How long does it take to reboot yourself after you've been glutened?
Well, scientifically,
yes,
it says it's a year.
Yes, so
for your gut to heal, a year.
Yeah, so if I just was like, you know what, I'm going to save it, I'm going to have a cheesecake every Thanksgiving, you're never going to heal yourself.
Right, and I won't do it because I know the price is way too high for me to pay. And the thing is, yes, we have celiac, but you know what works for your body. And if you don't, Jessica's really good about talking about, instead of finding, oh, they're on this diet or they're on that, find out what works for you.
Right.
Because we've had these discussions before, like Lori and Jessica and we were kayaking one day and we were talking about what foods works best for you. I need a little bit more carbs than other people. Some people need more protein. And by carbs, I don't mean potato chips.
Right.
I mean quinoa and things like that. But you have to figure out what works best for you. Like when you eat something, how do you feel? Like if you eat a whole mound of sugar cookies, how do you feel after that? If you feel crappy, then maybe you shouldn't eat a mound of sugar cookies ever.
Right, and that goes for the same as for whole foods as well. If you eat an avocado or coconut or whatever and you have some sort of reaction to that, lettuce is a big one, okay?
Yeah.
Lettuce. Everybody thinks lettuce is the most healthy thing in the entire world. Everybody should just eat lettuce. Sometimes you can't eat lettuce.
Yeah, that tears up my gut. I eat spinach instead.
So
but don't eat spinach just because I said so.
Right, but you have to find out what works for you. If you know that, stick with that. Just because it's the holidays doesn't mean you have to go off the path. And I've heard this a ton from people too. I take my food everywhere I go.
Yeah, I'm good at that too.
And people have said to me, well, I don't want to offend anybody. Why in the world would you offend somebody if you took your own food?
Right, and here's the thing. Depending on what kind of family you have, like my family, they say their spiritual gift is sarcasm. And they will be very sarcastic. But you know what? You just got to brush it off and move on. It's your body, it's your health. And if they do say something smart or they do get offended, that's their issue.
100%.
That it is not your issue. If I want to take an avocado with me, then I'm taking an avocado with me.
100%. If there's a bag of bacon in my purse, it is what it is. You know, so don't let that keep you from feeling or being your best, because that's what it is. You can't do the things. You can't do more than break bread. You can't make those new family traditions. You can't do any of that. You're going to run yourself ragged because you're already going to be ragged unless you're doing what's best for you 12 months out of the year.
Exactly.
And there's listen, Pinterest is I don't know how we ever functioned without Pinterest. Somebody asked me if I wanted a cookbook not too long ago, and I'm like, why would I need a cookbook? I have Pinterest. Like that don't even make sense. But find a recipe maybe that you enjoyed and figure out a way that you can make it better to work for you. There's tons of
recipes. I make these chocolate chip cookies, and the recipe is only for 2 cookies. And it's like almond flours and eggs, and I don't put any sugar in it.
Yeah.
And people might think that's really weird, but I put like the semi-sweet chocolate chips in it, and to me, that's enough. So you can figure out if there's something you're like, I have to have these because this is something we always had for the holidays. Figure out another way to make it.
Yeah.
Or if someone's having it and you are, physically allowed to have it, like it's not something that you can't eat because of celiac or something, then take 1 or 2 bites and then walk away.
Right.
Nobody says you have to eat the whole thing.
Right.
And one of the things my stepfather always used to say, and I still repeat this all the time, it looks better in the trash than it does on me.
Wow.
He always used to say that. And I say that all the time. If we have a big meal and I don't eat everything on my plate. That's just the way I am.
Yeah.
I just don't, because you don't have to eat it all. Nobody said you had to eat it all. And if you're sitting down for your Thanksgiving dinner or your Christmas dinner or whatever, and there's all kinds of choices, take the choices that work best for your body, and don't sit there and think you have to feel stuffed. I remember when my sister's son, when he was a teenager, he was struggling with trying to lose a little bit of weight. And she didn't realize that he had this kind of thinking that every single time you sat down to eat, that you should eat until you were stuffed. He didn't know that there was any other option.
Yeah, a lot of us don't.
So she had to start teaching him how to, how do you feel now? Like,
mindful eating is one of the hardest things to teach and to learn.
Right. And, it's taking that bite and waiting and having a conversation and making it about the other people in the community. Before, like my husband asked me the other night, I made something that was really, really good. And he was like, so there's a bunch left over. Do you want some more? And I said, I don't know yet. I'm going to wait about 20 minutes. And 20 minutes later, I didn't want any more.
Yeah.
So those are practices that you have to learn,
right.
And you have to, for lack of a better word, practice over and over again until your body, you start to get it. It's your mindset.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's what I'm still learning, mindful eating.
Me too.
I have sometimes a fear because I don't eat out or I don't eat what other people prepare. It's my own issues. But I feel like sometimes I'm going to miss out on a meal. Mm-hmm. So, or eat when I'm necessarily not hungry just because I know I'm leaving the house and I need to. So so I have to work on mindful eating as well. But yeah, no, that's a great point. And I wanted to say, a lot of times people will say, well, I can't do that. I'm not as dedicated as you. Listen, it has nothing to do about dedication. It's about survival.
Yes.
And that goes for everybody. Everybody should think it's about surviving the holidays the best, feeling my best.
Thriving
through the holidays, which we can link. But yeah, no, think of it as surviving. It's not about being dedicated. It's about doing what you know that you need to do so that the first of the year, January 2nd, January 5th, January 20th rolls around and you're not feeling some type of way that you need some major help.
Right. And you're like, okay, it's January 1st. And I can remember Lori and I have done this a couple times. It'll be like the day after Christmas. And she'll call and say, hey, let's go take a walk. And we put our headlamps on because it's dark early and go walk. And we have a great conversation because that's what it's about. And the other thing I want to just add this wasn't in the notes, but there's such a big movement right now, self-care. But if self-care isn't actually really taking care of your health and your body, and if self-care is, I can eat what I want, I can do what I want,
because
then
that's not really
self-care.
No.
That's really actually self-loathing.
Yes.
Because if you really care about yourself, then you're going to really eat healthy, you're going to exercise, you're going to have prayer time, you're going to meditate on God's word. Those things are self-care.
Yes, and I think that I just said this about a completely opposite or different situation the other day. Sometimes Satan will dangle in front of you exactly what you think that you want.
Yes.
Not what God wants for you. I mean, that's how he
Mm-hmm.
works. So not sometimes he does that, but that's how he works. So this self-care thing that he's dangling in front of you
Yes.
could actually be self-loathing.
Exactly.
You think that you want self-care and I can eat this because I want it and I can do this because it's good for me or I'm feeling this way today. And it really ends up not being what you need.
Right. And then 2 hours later, if you're saying to yourself, why did I eat that? Or why did I do that? Or why did I watch that? Or why did I participate in that gossip? You know, whatever it is
Yes.
that you told yourself for that moment, I have to do this because it makes me feel good.
Right.
And why are we supposed to keep doing things that only make us feel good in the moment?
Right.
Because a lot of things only make us feel good later. And we're sitting in Jessica's studio, so I can very honestly say, I feel better about the class I took this morning now that it's over.
Yes. Me too. But no, that's a good point, and I just think that you have to just take time to really find out what works best for you. It's only this podcast is going to be released the 1st of November, correct?
I think it's November 12th.
Okay, so November 12th. So you have 2 weeks before Thanksgiving,
Right.
at least, to try to figure out, get yourself an action plan. I'm all about action plan. The better you know, the better you do.
Exactly. Be proactive. Know ahead of time. Like if you're going to Aunt Susie's house and you know she's going to have the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top. You know exactly what's going to be on the table. You already have your game plan. You know what you're going to eat. Make a dish.
Yeah.
Make a dish that you can eat, because that's one of the things that I had to start doing is because, and then I might only have the turkey in that dish if it were at somebody else's house, but that's the way it was, because a lot of people don't understand what gluten is, and sometimes relatives would be like, you only put a little bit of flour in this, so you should be good. And I'd be like, what?
Oh, my.
But if you have a game plan and you're already thinking ahead, that is going to help you so much. And we're not going to link recipes, and we're not going to tell you what to eat
No.
or what to exercise. The thing is, you need to be figuring that out for yourself.
And it's not just all about physical. I mean,
Right.
that's why I wrote these 5 tips. We will link the 5 tips so that you have access to that on hand, but it's important. A mind, body, spirit, it's all one unit. And I
Right.
believe that when God spoke about our bodies being a temple, that's what he meant. He just didn't mean our physical well-being. It's
Yeah.
one important part of the puzzle, but it's not all it, because like we've said before, you can exercise, you can eat all the right way, but if you are not managing your stress, if you are not talking to God, if you are not doing what you need to do on that aspect, it's not going to matter.
Right. You have to, and the truth is you have to put your relationship with God first no matter what. And I'll just tell this little story before we finish up. This was during a very stressful time in my life. We were actually going through the adoption process. And I was praying, but it was more like whining a lot and not really getting into the Word for a season. And the Holy Spirit kind of gave me this vision in my mind of my spiritual being was like the Michelin Man. I was like fat. I was just dripping with fat, but my physical body was thin. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I cannot get myself balanced. And the Holy Spirit was just kind of whispering to me, because it's not like he was audibly speaking to me, right, saying, you need to get your relationship with God in order. You need to be working out spiritually. And working out spiritually doesn't mean that you're lifting weights and reciting scripture, which you can do. That's right. Okay to do. But it just meant that during my prayer time, I wasn't studying the Word. I was just spending all that time, instead of reading the Bible and studying the Word and praying in a positive way, I was just being anxious the whole time. It's just like, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. I don't know. And I wasn't being spiritually fit. So that kind of reawaken that part. You have to have that part first. And I have stumbled in that part many, many, many times.
Yes.
I've not perfected it, but I just know it's the most important part.
No, and me is, I would obsess. My stronghold was obsession about physical appearance, and until I handed that over to God, reshifted my priorities, is when my body started being its best.
Wow.
Yeah.
So any final piece of advice?
Just breathe. Just in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can do this. You 100% can do this. Holidays are stressful for all of us. We all have that one thing that we necessarily don't want to do, or that one person we don't want to face, or whatever it may be. Just know with these 5 tips, might be a little bit easier for you. I don't want to keep it all about food, because that's not what all of our life is about. It's way more than that. It is way more than that. That's how I run my studio. That's how I run my fitness classes. Anybody that I mentor, it's not all about your weight. It's not all about, that kind of physical appearance. It goes way deeper than that. So take a moment. You deserve to be your best. So don't think that you don't. Don't think just because you're a mom and that you have these kids that have parties every which direction that you look, that you don't have the right to take care of yourself, because you do. And they're going to thank you when they're older, when they know how to take care of themselves and self-regulate. They're thank you.
That's right. And I can attest to that, because my daughters, they know how to eat well, they know how to exercise, and I exercised the whole time. In fact, when Audrey was 9 months old, I accidentally kicked her and gave her a black eye, because she was crawling across the floor behind me. But anyway, I don't know why I thought of that.
Oh, that's funny.
But it is all, it's all, like Jessica said, combined. It's got to be your spiritual, your relationship with God. It's not all about your appearance, and it's not all about what you're eating. So thanks for joining us. And if you have a story you want to tell us, just, shoot us a message, get on our Facebook page or Instagram or whatever, and tell us your story. We would love to hear it.
And if you have any questions or any struggles, maybe we can give you a little bit of advice, so don't hesitate to ask.
That's right.
And happy holidays.
Yes. Happy holidays. Bye.
Bye.
We're so glad you could join us here for the Whole House podcast. Please subscribe, and if you give us a review, we might pick our favorite and send you a prize. Please remember to like the Whole House Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at _whole_house. And please sign up with your email on our website, thewholehouse.org, to be notified when new things are happening here at the Whole House. Thanks so much for listening.